Welcome to VolleyTalk. Alongside Amir Sanasin, I'm Elliot Skelly. Joining us today, the head coach of the Bishop Fenwick Falcons, Tina Gustely. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, 100%. Good to have you on. So last year, you secured the one season in Region 8. You probably took a little earlier loss to Baden in the playoffs than you would have liked to. Have you found that that's been motivation for your guys to come back and be better this year?
I do think it's in the back of their minds. They definitely didn't think they would go out in the first round last year. So this year they're more focused definitely on, the goal of winning state. And they've done a lot of work in preparation for that. So, but I do think that is in the back of some of their minds.
Looking at your season record right now, it sits at 17-7, but four of those losses came against the GCL South teams, Moeller, Elders, St. X, and LaSalle. What was the thinking behind scheduling some of those D1 teams, and what is your team looking to accomplish during those games?
Well, I think in general, our staff looks to schedule the toughest teams in the state. So whether that's Division 1 or Division 2, it doesn't matter. We just want to play the toughest competition to definitely prepare us for postseason. And again, those schools, we understand that there's legacy there. We understand that they have a lot of guys to choose from, and we're a smaller school, but we really want to put our guys in those pressure situations that will definitely help them at the end of the season.
We ended up taking second place in the GCL Co-Ed to rival Archbishop McNicholas. What have your battles been like against that one seed in the region so far this year?
Yeah, McNicholas, they're a very strong team. There's some good matchups on our end. We played them right out of the chute, first match of the season, and it went to 5. And again, definitely a battle. We went to their place and not so much. We had a couple critical injuries that took a couple players out, but again, you still need to be focused when you go and you play away. So I think it's a tough matchup. I think they're a great team. They do great things, and we do too. So we look forward to Saturday.
Well, hey, looking past those difficulties with McNick, you're the only team besides St. X to hand a loss to arguably the best Division 2 team in St. Charles. Can you describe that try matchup where you went up against the Cardinals and also against St. Vincent St. Mary?
Sure. Last year, we didn't bode so well during our time playing those teams. And so this year, the guys really wanted to come in focused. Again, we were out in opposite. Derek Morris was out for that match, but we definitely, came to play. We had a plan. St. Charles is a very good team, and they run a very fast offense. And our guys had to be prepared, and it was a definite battle. St. Vincent, St. Mary, same thing. We had to play focused to beat them.
Looking at the fact that you've played both of them, is it a nice confidence boost knowing that, hey, you've already beat them once, now you're in the postseason, you can get that crown if possible?
We don't always look at it that way because I think each match is unique and different. But I think they do understand that they have to come in focused and ready, to play their best the whole time. So it's nice to see that competition early, and that's why we play them. We want to be pushed, but we don't rest on our laurels. We prepare again and again, and we're moving to getting better and better.
Well, despite a really late regular season loss to Roger Bacon, you had an awesome 5-set win against them last night, and you're going to advance to the regional final. What was that win like against them?
Wow. Somewhere at the end of the fourth set, our guys decided that they wanted to win. And we saw something we hadn't seen a whole lot this season, and they came back and they didn't let down, and they pushed themselves and forced the win. So they definitely earned it out. We were really proud of them. But it was a battle. It was a long match, and it was grueling, but our guys, for it being their last match for the seniors in their home gym, it was a nice win.
For sure. Now, you've got the Region 8 Player of the Year and Todd Snyder on your team. What's it like having a player of his caliber? And also to that extent, how likely is he, in your opinion, to win the State Player of the Year in Division 2?
Well, I would hope he would win. I think, there are a lot of good players in the state, but I think Todd has really done a lot of work and grown this last year to raise the level of his play. He played for the attack, which is helpful. A lot of pressure situations there when they travel and play different teams across the nation. So Todd's a funny guy. We enjoy him. He keeps it light. He keeps us laughing. But he demands a lot of himself, and he makes the players around him better.
Well, in 2021, you had a pretty magical playoff run, winning a state championship under then head coach Pete Eller. How special was that win?
Wow, it's hard to put into words. It was just a miracle season, really. From the time we started the season, the boys wanted to win state for Pete. Pete told them every day, "You're going to win state. This is what's going to happen." And it was a unique team. That team wasn't as deep as our team this year, but that team had a special bond with Pete. And I think it was really a blessing and a beautiful thing that we could win state.
Yeah, really, really awesome way to end that one there. And rest in peace to Pete, obviously. Well, hey, looking ahead, like we were talking about, regional final, you're playing against Archbishop McNicholas this Saturday. What do you think needs to happen for you guys to overcome those 2 losses in the regular season and advance to the state tournament?
Well, we have a different lineup. We've had 3 different. This will be a 3rd different lineup against them, just based on our injuries. So it will be different, I think. And we really need to make some in-game adjustments when it's called for. And I think the boys did a good job last night with that. And they're understanding more and more that we have to be open to changing some things if we have to in the middle of a match. And then, because we see so many different things during the match. So I think that'll be the key. They're a very good team, with a strong outside and great libero. And the middles have improved for them over this last year. So that's different too. But yeah, we just need to make adjustments.
Yeah, it should be a really great match either way. But hey, best of luck Saturday. Thanks for your time. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, that was Tina Gustely from Bishop Fenwick. Thanks to her for coming on. They're, deep in the playoff run, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, so we got all state teams back. Pretty much all chalk. We had Caden Whiteside, Player of the Year from Liberty, Dave Hale from Liberty, Coach of the Year in Division 1. At Division 2, Ned Gruber from St. Charles, Coach of the Year, Maladen Take from St. Charles, Player of the Year. All chalk there from what I'm thinking. There's one thing I want to talk about that immediately came out to me. Brady Jones, we talked about, could have been Player of the Year in Region 4, fell to honorable mention all state. And I got to say, man, I couldn't disagree with that more. I kind of thought this was like a Mountie and Bianco situation from a couple of years ago, where it was like, hey, you got to pick one of them. Both those guys were such good players. They definitely deserve to be first team all state. Brady Jones is better than half those guys on the first team all state list. Like, I don't know what we're doing. He's one of the most dominant players all year. Did you see something similar to that?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you. And I'm looking here at the D1 All-State teams. The second team, all setters, all outsides too. You think about it, like he's a good middle and he gets to the point. I mean, I'm looking at the middles in front of him, Finn Rubin and Jackson Van Wormer. I think both of them are better than him. I think that's a fair assumption. I think everybody in that first team is decent, but the thing is, like, he's listed as the 2nd highest player on the honorable mention list. So he's close to the top, but he's not at the top. But I have to agree with you, Elliot. I think he's better set up for the second team because he's shown during qualities. He's shown qualities this year, even last year, even though he dealt with some injury. And then even in 2022 as well, it was the same thing where this is a guy who's been at the varsity level for so long. And that's saying something, knowing the program he's with, working with the coach that he works with, to just show that, I mean, this is his senior year. He's got to be ranked higher.
Yeah, and I hear you with I don't know. I wouldn't even say he's worse than Finn and Jackson, honestly. I mean, I would put him below the regional player of the years. That makes sense to me, but I think 5th is the lowest he should have gone. I don't know. I guess like Farrah said, though, at the end of the day, it's all arbitrary. It's all about just winning that state championship. Looking at our Region 1 brackets, we saw Olentangy Liberty advance over Olentangy and pick North over Berlin. Now, first looking at that top match, I mean, credit to Olentangy because I did not think this was going to be this close. 16, 22, 21. I mean, they gave Liberty a real test. But, man, I mean, God, Liberty's just too talented. I mean, it is It's insane, seriously, watching them sometimes. I mean, Jake Cook and Jack Torsion in the middle, both like just anchor the team, I think, just to be able to have a consistent middle option every single play. And then obviously you got the player of the year, Caden Whiteside, and one of the best setters in the state in Connor Severson, one of the best liberos in the state, Austin Mallory. I mean, it's really, really tough to stop this team. And it feels like they can just rest on that talent sometimes in these tough matches.
Yeah, and I think that's what really makes Olentangy Liberty, right? We talked about it last year at state where we just saw this team hitting on all cylinders, man. You know, the Severson twins are doing that. You talked about Whiteside, Torsen, Cook, and again, Jack Sullenberger's out, but now you bring Austin Mallory in. That's just a complete team, and that's what you need at this point in the year. And Dave Hale said it right on the nail.
Yeah, I also want to add Austin Mallory, dual sport athlete playing lacrosse as well right now on a Liberty team that I'm pretty sure is doing pretty well. And if I'm not mistaken, he's second team all region in lacrosse. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, finding some success there with both sports. And then Pick North and Berlin. I mean, it's just what can you say? Like, what a crazy 5 set match that is. You look at those middle 3 sets 23-25, 26-24, 25-27. I mean, that's insane. I mean, another tough loss for Berlin, going out in 5 sets like they did to Mount Vernon last year. But man, what a crazy match. Pick North comes out on top. I mean, this team, Pick North's a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it's going to be tough for them to knock off Liberty. I mean, just with how many talented players like we were talking about Liberty has, but Pick North, a great team in their own right. Like you said, Jackson Van Wormer, first team All State, Kyle Bookwater, honorable mention All State. So I mean, they've got some guys for sure. But I don't think that Liberty is not going to come out of this. I see maybe this goes to 4. I think that we could see that like Mount Vernon last year. Didn't think they really had a shot, and they came in and took the first set, and then Liberty kind of had to come back from that. So I could see something similar happen this Saturday, but I've got Liberty coming out of the region.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Pick North's going to put up a good fight, but the biggest thing I've seen with Liberty, and we've seen it with how they dealt with other teams too in the region, is they just wear you out, right? Pick North might be able to take the first or second set, make it competitive earlier on, but this Patriots team is just too strong.
All right, and then Region 2, this one actually surprised me a little bit. I was expecting Brecksville and Stowe to definitely go to extra sets, but Brecksville takes care of them in 3. And that third set, 25-14, an impressive win there for the Bees. And then on the other side, we had St. Ignatius take down Jackson in 4.
This is the guy you want. Jack Reagan surely going to be top spin. It gets loud here at Mags. He sends into it. Played there by Ertl. And that'll be it. Jack Reagan sends the Polar Bears into hibernation.
So, I mean, yeah, I feel like you nailed Jackson coming in at the 8th seed and taking the 1 seed to a very competitive 4 sets. And 28-26 at the end of the 4th set. So like they were pushing for a 5th. That's pretty impressive by them. And it sets up the regional final. The coaches who couldn't get each other on their schedules, the top dogs in the region, they ended up playing in the last round of the Centerville Elite Eight, with Brecksville coming out in a sweep. And despite that, still getting the 2 seed. So I don't know. I feel like some revenge coming in for the Bees. What are your thoughts on Region 2?
Yeah, I think we'll start off with Jackson Ignatius. First off, I was watching that game. Credit to the entirety of Jackson's back line. I mean, Jack Reagan played like a first team all pro. He played like one of the best outsides in the state. He played like one of the best outsides in the Midwest in that game. He was just rising up, just knocking balls down. And to be honest, Jackson, for the most part, had an answer to him throughout the entire game. So credit to their defense. That's what got them, at the very least, competitive. It took a set off. So that's a lot of credit to what the Polar Bears have done. Again, a team that was out in the first round last year. It was a 5-4 matchup, losing on the road to number 4 seed Stowe. Just it's a good story for Jackson. But now for Ignatius, you're back in the final. You're going up against Brecksville Broadview, a team that you lost to earlier this season. I don't know what it is, but from watching Ignatius, and you can talk about the drop sets to Walsh, you can talk about the drop sets to Jackson, but I don't know. Something tells me that this team just has a certain edge to them that can get them over Brecksville. And credit to what the Bees have done as well. I mean, Ryan Kecko in the first team, and also what the Salimos brothers have done as well, all throughout the court. It's tough to decide, but something tells me this game's going 5 sets. I don't know who's going to win this, but for right now, I'm going to say Ignatius.
Interesting. Yeah, I hear you there, but I can't get over that sweep at Centerville, man. I mean, Rexville to come out and prove everyone wrong, and sweep Ignatius, and then not get the 1 seed. I mean, I feel like they've got to have this motivation to come in and prove that they are in fact the best team in the region, and I think they will. I think they're gonna beat Ignatius. Their playoff run so far been pretty clean. Again, like I really expected the 2-3 matchup over Stowe to be a battle more than it was, and they get it done in 3 sets. I like their momentum coming in. I think Brexville comes out of the region. Now in Region 3, we saw some competition for the top seeds in the regional semifinals. Both go into 4 sets. Darby over Davidson, those first 2 sets, I mean, the whole match really close, but they dropped the first set 25-27, come back, win set 2, 25-23, and then win the final 2. And then on the other side, Thomas Worth over Jerome, they come and win the first set 25-23, drop the second 22-25, and then win the final 2. So, yeah, pretty similar stories there. Darby, I mean, their big story has been Chris Jones about 2 weeks in gets injured, and then hasn't been playing for him. On the other side, JT McGuire for Thomas Warrington right before the season gets an injury. So I think both guys that could have had really legit shots at regional player of the year go down, and we haven't really seen Darby or Thomas play each other at full strength. That said, both times in the regular season, they've gone 5 sets. Darby winning the first one, Thomas winning the second one. And it's been like they're the consensus best 2 teams in the region, and we haven't really even seen them play each other at their best. So I'm really interested to see how this one's going to go. My instinct is Thomas is going to win, but I mean, man, it's such a tough rivalry. I mean, I think this is in 4 years is the 12th time they'll play each other. So they've seen each other in the playoffs each of the past 3 years, and they're obviously league opponents. They play each other twice during the year anyway. What are your thoughts on third region?
Yeah, I think this is another toss-up, like you said. And I keep on thinking back to the final matchup they had at Thomas Worthington, where we saw the Cardinals reverse sweep the Panthers. That was such an interesting game. And I remember tuning in around the third or fourth set, and I was thinking to myself, all right, Darby's going to win this. But T-Dub, credit to them, they were able to fight and they were able to win in the end. And the way they just took control of that fifth set, I don't know the final score of that. I think it was something like 15-5, just a crazy scoreline towards the end. And I think the catalyst for all of that was JT McGuire. That's the biggest thing. As we talk about Chris Jones, we talk about JT McGuire, and to be honest, JT's the one that was able to come back earlier, and more importantly, he's the one that's able to just find open spaces and show out in the lineup. I mean, the thing is, like you said, I think he could have been first or second team had he not been injured. Still got on as an honorable mention, so credit to him. And I think he's going to be the one that leads the Cardinals to victory.
Yeah, I mean, that Dart match was his first match back of the season. So, I mean, I think he only played like 6 or 7 matches, and he was able to get first team all region just off that. So that's got to tell you something. And then I really think there's going to be a battle in the middles. I mean, Darby's strength all year, we don't necessarily know with Chris Jones how that's going to play into it, but their strength all year has been their middles. Like their quick tempo, they kill you through the middle. It's kind of been the case for Thomas Worthington too, regional player of the year with 6'7" Finn Rubin in the middle. So, I think who wins that battle is really going to be a big determiner of who wins the match here. All right, Region 4. We've got St. X is going to play Moeller. Look at the semifinal win, St. X over Elder. Kind of a ridiculous first set, 25-7.
And it's going to be an ace to end the first set. Bombers showing absolute dominance in the first regional semifinal, 25-7.
I mean, this is a GCL matchup. I know Elder's been a little bit down, but we've been commenting on how they've been building back up to it. But one of the best teams in the state just comes in and says no to that. And then on the other side, we had Moeller over LaSalle. And I mean, I know some people were predicting a closer matchup for this one, but the Crusaders pretty statement sweep there. Third set was a little close, but first 2 sets 25-15. No doubter on that one. Now, this is the third year in a row, I believe, that St. X and Moeller are going to be playing each other in a regional final. And both have gone 5, and both have gone in favor of Moeller. So that's something we talked about with Bill Fair. It's like once you get to that level, it's just one play is the difference between going to state and not. But man, this year, St. X just feels like they are on another level. And I know we talked about 6-0 in the GCL. I mean, what they were like 21-1 during the regular season. I mean, only really team that battled with them was Liberty. But I mean, I feel like we're talking about another level. Not even just undefeated in GCL. I feel like every GCL match and every time they played a GCL team, it was going up and be like, "Hey guys, let's not play down. Like, hey, we got to just play our game against more. We don't want to." It's insane. It didn't seem like they were even struggling like at the Elite Eight tournament. What are your thoughts on Region 4?
I actually kind of want to harp back on that because I feel like that was one thing that we saw from Saint X a little bit last year, and definitely when I was calling them in 2021 and 2022, you would just have so many close sets where it feel like something goes this way or something goes that way. And the Bombers, I feel like, have really tightened down on that. And I don't know if that was something Ferris decided after what would be three consecutive exits in the regional finals to say, hey, you know what? We need to tighten down. We need to play like we want to play like a state title contender and play it more consistently. And we saw it in the first set against Elder too, a 25-7 victory. I was thinking to myself, like, the way this team plays is so interesting. One set, they play like they're the best team in the nation. Some other times they struggle a bit. You know, afterwards, I believe there was one set in that game, Elder was up like 7-4. And I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of interesting because they just lost a set 25-7, but it's kind of credit to how the Bombers have played this year. And I think it just comes down to consistency. That's been the biggest struggle for Bill Ferris's side this year. And I'm looking back at last year's regional final at Fairfield. Moeller won that game 22-25, 25-20, 20-25, 25-21, 15-12. So every single set decided by at most 5 points. Just a little swing here and there, but I think the biggest thing is that the one person who has wreaked havoc, or rather two people who have wreaked havoc in these previous matches, both 2023 and 2022 for Mueller, were Will Patterson and Ben Hagerty. And credit to them, they both did a very good job. And I think Mueller still has a great squad, but I still don't feel like from the matchups that I've seen so far, nobody from Mueller has truly kind of taken the reins in that way to kind of own Saint X the way that those guys have done in the past. And on the other side, Saint X, the way they were able to recuperate some of their lineup and get a lot of their outsides in, they have the middle presence with Brady Jones. You have Iceman, Aiden Berkemeyer, who also did a good job, second in Player of the Year voting. It just seems like this team is complete. And after 3 years of losing the regional finals, I think the Bombers are back at state.
One more name I want to throw at you for Moeller, Lee Meyer. I mean, arguably,
True. That's true.
I mean, you look at the stats, probably accomplishment-wise, maybe second greatest head coach of all time in Ohio history. But in the 3 years he done, I mean, nobody was more effective in a 3-year stretch than him. And I don't know. I think we've talked about Moeller playoff magic in the past. I think this year we're going to tell if it's Moeller playoff magic or if it's Lee Meyer playoff magic. Because, I mean, we talked about with him about, the extensive playoff preparations they would go through. It seemed like they're just above everyone else in that regard when it comes to preparing their team for the playoffs. Obviously, Casey Pieper worked under him, and I'm sure he'll have some kind of system similar to that. But I don't know. I just this X team is just too dominant this year. I don't see any way that Mueller's going to be able to beat them. Then in Division 2, Region 5, we had St. Charles advancing in a pretty easy sweep over Hartley. And then DeSales actually coming out with the upset win in 5 over the CCL rival Bishop Watterson. I mean, really cool, I think, because just from DeSales, we've seen them near the bottom or even outside of the top 10 all year, but the reigning state champions at Division 2 just kind of building momentum and coming into a regional final, I think is a really great accomplishment. But St. Charles, #1 team in Division 2. Got Coach of the Year, got the Player of the Year. They had 4 guys technically get the votes for first team all region. I mean, there's no way that St. Charles did not come out.
Yeah, again, it feels like they're the Liberty of D2. They're just too domineering, and it's what's led them to victories throughout the season. And we've seen it too when they played Division 1 competition. They're able to take some sets off, as we saw against St. X. So this is a team that's really going at it with themselves and definitely going at it with their Division 2 opponents. They got DeSales. I won't be surprised just knowing the way DeSales has played now. This is going to be a neutral site game, but the way they've played on the road has been very impressive. The way they're able to take Chillicothe, the way they're able to take Waterston, a team that they lost to on the road earlier this season, and just twist it a little bit more in their favor is just exemplary. But at the same time, it just feels like when you're at this point of the season, it's just about how strong your team is. And that's where you go to St. Charles.
And then for Region 6, we had St. Vincent St. Mary come out in an easy 3. Hoban also come out in an easy 3. That's something we kind of talked about. These two teams are just way above everyone else in that region. Now, St. Vincent St. Mary getting the 1 seed, and based on the games that were in at the time of seeding, deserving. That being said, right after seeding was finished, Hoban beat St. Vincent St. Mary. So they've got the more recent win over the Fighting Irish. That being said, St. Vincent St. Mary has the playoff experience. This would be their 3rd straight state tournament if they were to get there. And they've got, the essentially runner-up player of the year in Brendan Shivers, just came in right behind Maladen Tig in first team all-state voting. I actually like the Fighting Irish to overcome that late regular season loss and get back to Wittenberg.
Yeah, I agree with you. It felt like when we saw that result, and I think OHSA may agree with us, is the fact that it seemed a little surprising, right? It felt that it was a Hoban upset over St. Vincent St. Mary. So the way they've played this year, St. Vincent St. Mary, it's been a little off, but you have to credit them. They scheduled a very competitive schedule. They were going up against a lot of competitive D1 opponents and then D2 as well, with the try they had at St. Charles going up against the Cardinals and against Fenwick. So credit to how Logan Jennings has built this team up over time. A little bit of a surprising result against Hoban earlier this season, but I think they get it done.
All right, Region 7 in Division 2. We've got it'll be an Independence versus Chardon regional final, a rematch of last year's regional final. Independence got all the momentum in the world. It feels like they swept the 1 seed. They beat Villa Angel St. Joseph, the 3 seed. Chardon also taking care of business. Went forward with Perry, beat Berkshire in 3. So I don't know. Lexi Procopi's side, I feel like they're peaking at the right time, and I don't know. There's an element of what you said where maybe this region is kind of fluid with the seeding. It seemed like there was some voting more based off record, like we saw with Bard Early College going 1, than maybe competitive wins. But I don't know. I like what Independence is doing, and I got them coming out over Chardon.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that I've seen over this stretch of time that is like from this year compared to last year is just how that region has gotten better, in my opinion, right? Like Landon Jacek, he's a D2 second team for Independence. Ian Galati for Chardon, an honorable mention. It's just both of these two teams are starting to get better. And I think the bigger thing is it's just who has the edge at this time of year. And as this talent increases in this region, as this region, for the most part, made up of a lot of teams that started their programs last year, as that region comes to fruition, I think it really dictates on who shows up at the right time, right? We talk a lot about competitiveness on our schedule. We talk a lot about competitiveness on this podcast. And I feel like the way Independence plays, it's about being competitive. It's not about just getting the wins early on and maybe stat padding, get your resume up, because we can see what happens come playoff time when even though they are the lower seed, they're able to just take full advantage. I think it's the same on Saturday.
And then for the final match tomorrow, it's going to be Archbishop McNicholas over Bishop Fenwick. Obviously, we talked to Tina Gustely, that incredible 5-set win over the 3 seed Roger Bacon. And then McNick coming out with a pretty low sweat win over Chaminade Julian, the 6 seed in 3 sets. It's going to depend. Like you said, this is the 3rd lineup that Fenwick is going to bring against a pretty talented McNicholas team in Division 2. But I don't know, man. I like McNicholas here. I think that they're just too talented. They've been near the top of Division 2 all year. I don't know. I think they have too much talent. They're too dominant of a team. I like them coming out of Fenwick.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's very similar to Liberty because I remember looking at this team against Baden, and it's a team that really came into themselves last year in the ways that they were a 5 seed. Nobody, including ourselves, really talked about them. And all of a sudden, they're also playing another Cinderella in 6 seed Baden in last year's regional final. They're returning to Mason where they got the championship last year. I believe it was their first in 6 years at the time. So it's now been 7 years since that victory. And again, I feel like the way Julie Mulvey's team is building is just showing that this team can really go the distance. And Alex Dienling even talked about it this year, is the fact that yes, you can hang your hat on what you did last year with the personnel you had, but at this point, when you have a team that's approaching full strength, may still be at full strength next year, this shows that McNick can really truly take advantage of this region and make it back to state.
All right, and with that, that'll do it for the regional final predictions, man. It's getting real now. Only 8 teams left in each division. And, it's funny. I was looking at Max Preps the other day, like, what are the matches for today? And it's like, oh, not that much. There's not that many teams still practicing. It kind of sneaks up on you, but some great volleyball coming up this Saturday. Really excited to get all that done. Mahir, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have to echo your statement. I got Max Preps pulled up on here, and you can see all the rankings and the fact that it's just down to whatever it is, right? 8 games during this regional time. For the most part, according to Max Preps rankings, a lot of these guys are ranked, but nonetheless, it just shows that this is the one week, right? We talk about it, right? You think about some of the big results from last year, right? Mount Vernon, Olentangy, Liberty, Jerome over Darby, Moeller over St. X, probably the upset of the season in that regards, or one of the upsets of the season.
No,
It
upset
just
season.
shows that,
You can use it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, one of the upsets of the season. It just shows that this is that round, right? This is the round where it's a big jump, right? Making it from just being in your region to making the trip to Wittenberg University next week. So credit to all the teams that have made it this far, because it's a tough ride to get to. And even more credit if you're headed to the Final Four next week.
And with that, this has been Ohio VolleyTalk, and we will catch you next week.